information to help you run your business better and improve your marketing campaigns. My name is Hank Hoffmeier, and thank you for joining me on Hank's Marketing and Business Tips. Hello, everybody. Today, I am joined by Ken Wood. He is the founder and CEO of Roar Marketing Concepts, LLC, and he's based here in the Raleigh, North Carolina area. I'm excited to have Ken on today. We are going to discuss having a really well described and curated value proposition, as well as having a competitive advantage, and most importantly, understanding your target market when you have or maybe starting a business. So welcome, Ken. I appreciate you being on today and providing us with some knowledge that you may have to help people facilitate their business better.
Well, thank you, Hank. It's great to be here today, and these subjects are a real passion of mine, so I'm very excited to be talking to you about them.
Right. I know you and I had the chance to talk last week, and we really got into a lot of discussion and went from general marketing all the way to augmented reality, where we want to dial back today and provide folks with some information about succeeding a little bit better. Maybe, you've started, maybe you're getting some business, but you're struggling along the way. How do you define your business, and how do you find customers and give them the value that they need? And you may be targeting the wrong audience, and you're here to help us with some tips on how to do that. So where do you want to start?
Well, let me just talk a little bit about some of when I talk to clients or prospective clients for Roar, I typically ask them a couple of things. Number one, when we're trying to put together a strategy for them and they hear that I do marketing strategy, a lot of people don't really understand what that means. You can say it, they hear these words, but if they were to be completely honest with you, they really don't know what that is. So what I have to do is I try to walk customers through, or prospective clients through, how to think about this. And the first thing that I ask them is, what are your business goals? What are the goals for your business? What is it that you want to achieve? And usually the answer that I come back with, or I hear, is it's usually more sales or more revenue, which is the end game. In order for a business to be successful, it has to generate revenue, not just revenue, but profitable revenue.
Right. And
it has to do it repeatably and in a predictable manner. So that in order to do that, you need a well understood marketing strategy. So I ask them about the business goals. Then I typically ask them, what have you been doing? Because there is, in today's digital marketing environment, there's a lot of tools out there that people get exposed to, and they try. They hear from other colleagues, they hear from other friends, hey, you need a social media strategy. Oh, really? Oh, okay, I guess I do. Or you should be blogging, or you should have using Marketo, or you should be using MailChimp, and all these, or iContact, or other things to be doing your outreach for other marketings. And so people get barraged with that. What I try to do is to sit them down and say, okay, what's your business goals and what are you doing? And let's identify the gaps between them. Because more often than not, they're doing things without giving a lot of thought to why they're doing them and what the outcomes are going to be.
Do you think that at times there may be a disconnect between sometimes what people think are goals and then their value proposition? Because you mentioned, goal is to make money. Yeah, that to me should be a byproduct. It's necessary to earn a living, to support a family, yes. But if you go into it with what you have in your value proposition, I think in turn you're not worried about the money, and then everything else will start to flow better. Hopefully that makes sense.
What you're alluding to, Hank, I think, is that the goal of a well-defined and well-thought-out marketing strategy is not revenue, believe it or not. It is that is because revenue implies that there's a sales piece to that, and you have to engage your sales force, and your marketing efforts are help to enable your sales force to be successful in the marketplace or however you're going to market. So yes, that is true. And if we talk about the elements of a value proposition, really what it comes down to is, how does your company, product or service, or your employees, whatever it is that you're offering to the marketplace, how does it help your target market achieve their goals? And how does it help them? And usually their goals can be defined, more often than not, it's usually to help your target market either sell more of the product and service that they are offering to the marketplace, or it's helping them reduce costs in some manner,
right,
or solve a particular operational problem that they're dealing with in their business that's been giving them a tough time. But the point is to be able to talk about it in terms of how you're providing value to the customer that is measured in the customer's terms.
right.
And what I see is people talking about when they're talking about their value proposition, they may say, for example, if I would say this is an incorrect value proposition for Roar Marketing Concepts to say that I provide comprehensive marketing strategies to technology companies. That's not really a value proposition. That's
right.
really talking about what I do.
Right. And I've mentioned that on previous shows where even large brands sometimes have too broad of a statement. We want to make the world better by providing water, say it's a water company, but what does that mean?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
How would you formulate a better value proposition?
Well, number one, I would certainly say, okay, asking who is your customer? Who are the groups of people that you believe, after you've now, and the point is, after you've done some research, because you really want to do your research and do your homework here to understand who are the people that are going to benefit from your product, you believe are going to benefit from your product. And you will know this, and you can speak confidently about this if you've done homework about that particular customer or that industry, to say, look, I've studied the problems that they're facing, or I've learned about the problems that they're facing. I've learned about their business pains, as we call it in marketing parlance. And I believe that my product or service is going to be a good remedy to solve those business pains that they're experiencing. Right. So again, it is not about what I do. It is about me going out and understanding what the customer is facing and what they're dealing with, and how am I addressing that. And some people say it's the same, but no, it really isn't, because it's all about the customer. I hate to say those cliches, but it really is.
Right. And then a lot of people are saying, if you're in a larger organization, you're in leadership, it's employees first, then customers, then money. So it just depends on how large your organization is and how important your employees are to you, or how important are your clients are to you when you're just starting out in your new business, because you may not have a lot of employees. Right. But if you don't have happy employees, you may not have happy customers.
Well, that's true. I mean, the thing in that model, and you talk a little bit about that, is that if I am saying that my most important entity is my customers, and you may say, I certainly, as a part of that, is that I have to take care of my employees, and I have to make sure that my employees are empowered, they're happy, they enjoy their work, because otherwise my customers, who I really care about, they're going to feel the negative effects of that if that's not happening. So
right.
Certainly.
So now we discussed not so great of a value proposition. Can you formulate a better one for your organization? Let's say
for my organization, one of the things that I would say is that for example, Roar Marketing Concepts provides a way for small to mid-sized technology companies to grow their revenue, to better connect with their customers and better communicate their value to their customers, which leads to quicker sales cycles and predictable, scalable, and repeatable revenue. Now, I say that because I also know that that would be a decent value proposition, because it mentions that things that my customers care about. Number one, we talked about that we're getting better engagement with customers, better communication of the value. Okay, mm-hmm. and people say, oh yeah, I have problems with that, and I need help with that. And if that's going to help me reduce my sales cycle because I'm doing a better job of communicating what I can do for my prospective customer, then there'll be less time for them to say, should I really go with this person, or do I really need their service? To say, yeah, I really do. And again, the components of this value proposition has to be built out, very in a very detailed way.
Right.
But then the other part too is to say predictable, scalable, and repeatable revenue. Well, that's of interest to me.
Right.
I'm interested in hearing about that.
To simplify, I would back up and say the former said, wow, I know what they do. And the latter, which is better, says, I know what they do and how they're going to help me specifically.
Exactly. How are they going to help me? It's very similar, Hank, to if you're, say you're interviewing for a job, and we've all interviewed for jobs, the resumes that people write, and this is just a quick analogy. You've heard people talk about they write a resume, and they call it the obituary resume, where they talk about what they did, responsible for, led this, did that. But a lot of resumes that you see, they don't talk about, and what hiring managers want to see is how are you going to leverage your skills and experience to help my business? And a lot of resumes don't do that. And that's the whole thing is that they're really, I get that, when some people say, well, it's really easy to talk about ourselves because we know ourselves. And so it's sort of the path of least resistance sometimes. And a lot of, as you probably know, and I know, a lot of big companies do this as well. They say, well, we talk about ourselves because that's what we know most about.
Right.
But you really need to talk about and talk about the customer and understand what is value to them, and how what you're going to do and what you offer to the marketplace is going to convert to value that in a way that they can measure it. Very important.
Right. And with today's environment and the barrier to entry for anyone starting a business, there can be a whole lot of companies that have weak value propositions that are still going to try to soak up, business from you, where you could stand out and be competitive by having a well-formulated value statement or value proposition, and also make sure you have those clear goals that we started talking about as well.
Right, yeah. So so I mean, it is so that's one way that I would do that. And then other aspects of the value proposition, Hank, that I coach clients on and help them, and at Roar we work with them to develop pages and pages and documents to really make sure that this is well understood, is to also understand who your target market is. Okay. And when we say about that is, who are they? Where are they? Both online and offline. Where do they congregate? What do they care about? How do they get their information? We talk about, if you want to talk about also the leveraging social media, which of course is, it's with us now, and it's an integral part of any marketing strategy,
right,
is that we need to understand who the major influencers are online in your target market, because you want to get on their radar. And what are they talking about? So it's important like that. Also, you want to understand, as you're going through, how does your customer buy? How does your customer, prospective customer, buy your product?
Right.
You have to understand the sales cycle, and as you probably know, that when you reach out to a prospect or engage with a prospect, chances are that they're not ready to buy at that moment. And but when they have a trigger for a need for a product or service like yours or your company's, they're going to go through an evaluation period. And now, with the fact that with Google and the internet and all the information we have online, they have that ability to do that. The customer likes to being in control, and they like being able to digest the information at their own pace and how they want. So, and it's very important. That's the way it is now.
Right. In my speaking, I call those people the empowered consumer. Every time I speak, I talk about it in that manner. They just have information at their fingertips. They want information and results now. Therefore, they are hyper focused on getting the best deal and getting best quality and getting something when they want it. And don't miss it, folks. What Ken was just talking about is really, really important. There are so many people that start a business, make a website, then just start pumping ads out on Facebook, wherever, Snapchat, depending on your demographics. And they think business is just going to come. Yes, you're going to get your tire kickers and you'll get some eyeballs. But if you understand your customer and you start asking questions and you start going to events, and I've mentioned before, going to events that may have something to do with your industry or where your customers hang out, as Ken mentioned, start asking questions and don't sell them. Don't even hand them a business card. Just ask them, what is it you look for when you buy X? Learn about that. This way you can optimize your advertising and start networking and get word of mouth referrals, and then you'll start converting more sales in a quicker fashion.
Right. And to add on to that, Hank, what you also want to do is you want to be able to formulate a vehicle for offering value along the way prior to the customer even buying from you as you engage with them. I mean, as we all know, I don't know what the latest number is. I've heard 12, 7, I've heard 7 number of touches that you need to with a typical prospect before they're ready to make a decision. And each one of those, so for each one of those touches, you have to make it, again, I call it the Whiffam principle. What's in it for me? Meaning the customer.
Yes.
And you have to think about what is the reason the customer should continue to engage with you? And that it's important to think through that, how you're going to continue to deliver value and keep the customer engaged until they're ready to buy.
Right. And the tough part is each of those steps, let's say it is 12, how do you remain consistent and provide value each step of the way? That's where planning comes in. That's where having a lot of content comes in. And most importantly, learning about what people want when they hear from you.
Right. Exactly. And then there's a third component. So we've talked about the value proposition in terms of, your company. I mean, it is important to understand what your company does well. What do they bring to the marketplace? I mean, there is you also, in this portion, a lot of companies, because they know themselves pretty well, they understand their value, they understand what they do well and what they don't do well. So that's the first one. Then we talked about who your target market is. And I would also add, besides what makes up your target market, it's very, very important, and I coach clients on this all the time, is to do an understanding of how big your market is, and using actual numbers. And people think, that can be difficult to do, but with all the information that's online, and a lot of it is free, you don't have to buy very expensive, multiple $1,000 marketing studies in order to understand a particular market. There's a lot of available information online that you can use to size up your market. And one of the things that there's really 2 metrics that I like to look at. The first one is called the total addressable market, which is all the people in the entire universe that would be a good prospect for you that would probably buy your product. And it's important to understand that's a good one. But then we want to go to what we call it a served available market, which means, say, for example, Roar Marketing, I'll take Roar again for a comment. I'm doing marketing strategies and I'm going after technology companies. Now, if I say I was going after technology companies in the United States, or small to mid-sized companies in technology in the United States, that would be a billions of dollars market. Right. However, Roar is really focused on, because of our size and where we are at this point in time, that's way too big. I could never go after that kind of market. So what I have to do is I've narrowed mine down to, I'd say, technology companies in the state of North Carolina, or even more specifically, technology companies in the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area. And from that, you'll get a number of, you get a size of the market. You could get number of companies, or you could get total revenue. It's very easy. I've used references like, free databases like Reference USA, which would probably be, I'd love to, maybe Hank, another time I could come on and talk about that, because that's a great reference, and other tools out there that are available to help you do your market research. But so it's important to get that, because you want to, you are going to have to invest in your marketing. And in order to, people talk about marketing return on investment, you want to make sure that your investment is going to yield a return. It's important. It's just good business. And the only way that you're going to be able to do that is to try to determine the value of gaining X new customers as a result of your marketing efforts. And if I spend X amount of, I won't use real numbers, but if I spend X amount of dollars on any type of marketing strategy, I want to be very conservative in terms of how many customers do I think that's going to bring to my business.
Right.
And as you probably know, when you're sizing your market, don't say the whole market because not everybody is going to sign up with you. In fact, it'll probably be a very small percentage.
I think a good thing to say would be is you can start small, as you were mentioning, maybe in a small city or in a state. You can always scale up once you start to establish yourself and maybe hire more people that can help, your organization grow. You can always grow into different markets rather than trying to throw advertising or a lot of your marketing efforts out there and hoping to get that, 1% of business where you might not even understand your customers. And as I mentioned earlier, you're just serving ads to people that are not interested right now. But if you focus locally, it allows you to go out and about in person and network, learn about the area and what's important. And you can add that information about the area into your marketing concepts.
Right. And it's funny, you mentioned a word that some people use sometimes with their strategy. I always tell clients that hope is not a marketing strategy.
I like that.
And so it's important to do that. And then I'll just talk very quickly, and you alluded to this earlier. The third thing is, this is something that's very extremely important, and companies get asked this all the time, and they never have a great answer to it. And it's, why should customers pick you over the competition, which we call your differentiator or your competitive advantage. And it's very, very important for you to understand how you are going to differentiate yourself and position yourself against your competition. Implicit in that is that you need to understand who your competition is. What do they bring to the marketplace? What are their strengths and weaknesses? And also to try to get, and with the information that's available on your competition's website, what they may have been written about in their blogs, there's so much information that you can glean about your competition to formulate, to size them up in relation to how you believe they compete against you. Because it is very important to say what is differentiated about your company. And it could be many things. It could be your product is from a feature standpoint, it's better. We always talk about a good, better, best type of mentality. Maybe you differentiate yourself. We're the low-cost leader. We differentiate on price. A lot of times clients don't like that, but I mean, it could be in certain businesses, price is king. Right. Or another example, it could be that here's a differentiator for Roar, or one of them is that I focus on technology companies. And one of the things that differentiates Roar Marketing from other marketing companies out there is that we've got some engineering experience. We started out life as engineers. We've got that technical experience. We can get down in the weeds with that technical company owner about his very complex product or service and convert those features that he's talking about into well-defined benefits. So there's a differentiator right there. But it's important for you to understand what those are, because customers are looking at you and they're comparing you with other people out there, and you want to make a good impact and make a clear differentiation of why customers should choose you.
Right. And backing up to competitive intelligence and researching your competitors. A lot of people will just go out and make a list of their competitors and know like a couple things, and that's wrong.
Right.
Lori Bruns, who's been on the show, and she's one of my business buddies, she mentions do what you do best and delegate the rest. She's a productivity coach. Mm-hmm. Right. There's going to be a point where you're not going to be able to do everything, or maybe you don't have knowledge in a certain area. What you can do is go to Fiverr.com and you can hire somebody to do this competitive research for you and create something that we call here battle cards. It basically is a listing of your competitor where you write in strengths, weaknesses, pricing, differentiating information, etc. Have those ready and available and memorize them as much as you can. And when you're having a conversation with a potential client, they bring up a competitor, you're going to know about them and be able to differentiate yourself.
And I think that's good. And I think also in today's, today's digital environment, we all suffer from what I call information overload or information exhaustion. I like to go back to sometimes if you understand your competition and you understand their strengths and weaknesses, and say, for example, a particular customer or a particular client comes to you and asks for a particular feature that you don't offer, okay, or a particular thing, it is okay for you to say, look, the competition may offer it. I think you and I talked about this, like the old Miracle on 34th Street, Macy's versus Gimbals.
Right.
Hey, at Macy's, we don't have that toy, but if you buy it at Gimbals, I think they carry it. Even though you don't have a sale right now, you've built goodwill with that customer.
Yes.
And I think it is that could spell good things for you down the road.
It does. And this has been a great conversation. We probably can go on forever, but I want to wrap it up. Maybe we can have a separate discussion around a couple other things down the road. So Ken is with us from Roar Marketing Concepts, LLC, here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Ken, if folks wanted to reach out to you or they wanted to start following you, how can they do that?
Sure. They can follow me at my company website is roarmarketingconcepts.com. And you can find me on Facebook. You just type in Roar Marketing Concepts. And on Twitter, my Twitter handle is @MarketingRoar, all one phrase. Mm-hmm. And they also, locally here, you can reach me at 919-802-0065. I'll be happy to talk with you.
Sounds great. If you want to have a great conversation about marketing, especially if you're in technology, definitely reach out to Ken. I've had a couple different discussions with him, and they've all been awesome and great. We've met at a networking event, right?
That's right. Yeah, we met at the the Triangle Revenue Exchange.
Right. Yeah. And I practice what I preach. I go out and go to these events and talk to people, and they become part of my network. And some people offer some great value, and I look forward to meeting more people. As knowledgeable as you can. So I appreciate you being on. If you are tuning in for the first time today, you can always find older episodes of my podcast at hankhoffmeier.com/Alexa. We are now on iTunes. We are on 60dB. You can go to my website and listen to it and watch it. It's also on YouTube as a video. We appreciate you being with us today, and we hope that you start providing some great value out there and you go and create a awesome value proposition today.
Amen. Yes.
Thank you.